I think we might be live. Let me make sure I did all the things right. 1 second, I was running late for everything today. I don't even want to know what I forgot. Let's see. Is there audio? Come on. I've got nothing. Oh, maybe? Yep, okay, good. We have audio. Let me mute that so we don't have to hear me in double. One's bad enough. Okay, so tonight I'm working in oils for the first time in forever. It actually took me a ridiculous amount of time to clean my palette. It's part of why I'm late tonight. I don't even remember. Was it my beta like a year ago? I don't know. I haven't painted in so long in oil, so my palette was all kinds of dried up. It took some muscle to clean this thing off. So tonight I'm just going to be doing the underpainting of this. Oh, I should have put the photo I'm working on. I didn't transfer it over, so I don't have it for you guys to look at what I'm doing. What I am doing here is just doing everything in raw umber. Well, not totally raw umber. I am going to be using black and white on the palette, and I've also got light raw umber out because I just think it's helpful. The point here is that I'm not really worrying about colors. I'm just worrying about getting my values correct. Let me make sure I've got the paint in. Yeah, that will show. Okay, so let me throw some of the paint. Now the paint that I'm using here, the black and titanium white, that is Weber's Permalba. And that's really the only paint that I like of the Weber's Permalba brand. I've got some of their other paints, and it's not that they're not good to work with. They smell horrible to smell, and I love the smell of oil paint. I don't know what they did with those ones. The texture's like, it's fine to work with. It smells bad. Not a fan. So we'll go ahead and put some of these colors out and making sure that they are on. Oops. These are opening weirdly well, considering how long it's been since I used them. A little bit of oil paint goes a very long way. I'm technically probably putting out more than what I need, but I'll be working on this for the next few days with just the raw umber colors, so it'll be fine. Let's see, white. Yeah, you can see if I put it here. I didn't fix stuff, so that's why I'm having to test where things show up on camera as I put the color out. Oh, my raw umber didn't really show. That is off. Oh well. Wait, let's slide it. There we go. Now you guys can see. Okay, and let's see. I have just my regular raw umber. These ones, the other colors besides the two Weber's Permalba paint, these are just the artist color. It's the Winsor and Newton. And the reason that I go with Winsor and Newton, I'm not going to say it's the best paint in the history of all oil paints. It's just easy to get and it works for me. I would like to try some other paints. I just haven't gotten around to ordering any. But these ones work pretty good. Now Winsor and Newton makes two that I have. One is, let me see if I've got some in here. One are these, the Winton oil color, and then you've got the artist oil color. By far, the artist oil color I like better of the two Winsor & Newton brands. The Winton color, it's kind of more of an entry level. It works. You just have to thin, or at least with the way I paint, I have to thin it out quite a bit with my liquid or whatever mixing medium you're going to use. It's thicker and chunkier, whereas this has a more, like a softer consistency, which I really do prefer. So we've got those out. Where did I put my paintbrushes? Okay, oh, this one isn't one of the better. I'm going to need a different set of brushes. This is the crappy section. 1 second. Hopefully this one has my oil paint brushes in it. Otherwise, I have no idea where they are after the move. I thought everything was over there. Oh, good. Okay, this is the right one. What do I want to start with tonight? We'll put out a Filbert, get a couple of mop brushes out. Okay, let's see. And we've got, let's see, Boz Art Tutorial said, what video camera do you use to film your videos, not your lives? That is a Canon, I can't see the other side. It's a Canon Vixia something, I don't know. It's pretty old. I got it in, I think, 2015. So it's not a super new one. They have newer versions of that would probably be better. But I think, I can't remember how far, it's like 1080. I don't remember what it goes up to. But it works. I mean, it works fine. You don't need, like for YouTube videos, honestly, I don't think you need the most amazing, best camera in the history of all the cameras. It's, you just don't. So most cameras will do well. What I looked for when I was choosing a camera is something that does fairly well in low light, because I do paint. I mean, I have a bright light over my easel, but I don't, move that back, whoops. I don't, the rest of the room is really dark. So the low light camera works well for me since I paint at night. And that's really why I chose this camera from all of the reviews I was looking, just seeing what cameras people were saying did fairly well in low light, looking at samples online. And that's what I recommend doing. See what people are using and what filming like situation they're in, if it's going to be similar to what you do. And the reason that I don't go with a DSLR, which a lot of people do use, the DSLR, they look amazing, but they don't always run continuously, and they'll shut themselves off, and if you're not paying attention, I don't know if there's something you can do to mess with the software. There probably is. I'm sure somebody in here can let us know, but they just weren't good fits for me. I'm just pulling a bunch of random brushes out before I get started. I have a whole lot of random brushes that came out of my Smart Art boxes. Kind of fun to play with here. Okay, nothing tonight will be super clean. What I will be doing is laying everything in kind of the equivalent of black and white, but sepia. So I'm not worrying about color. I'm just worrying about value and starting to get the details. Now tonight won't be super full of details. It's really the contrast and generally where things are located. Once this layer dries, which for me, because the mixing medium I use, it's called Liquid. There you go. It is the Liquid Original is what I'm using for tonight. I will switch to the Liquid Fine Detail when I do get to the finer details, which it will not be tonight. But with the Liquid, it dries overnight, so I will be ready to go on to my next layers tomorrow, no problem. So Gibson is in here, my Greyhound, and he's laying on my Italian Greyhound bed, which is like this big, which is funny because he's got his big bed there. Why are you laying there? That does not look comfy. You don't fit. Okay, let's see. Maya said, I have not heard you during the Colored Pencil podcast lately. Will you be doing any more? No, I'm out of that one. I am no longer a part of the Colored Pencil podcast. Whoops, missed one. Zale said, is there a specific technique you use to get the proportions so exact? I use the grid and it almost always works, but it takes longer. I did the grid once and I spent forever, and my grid was just slightly off, and I just erased it and started over. I'm better off to freehand. So my two methods, I will either freehand, and just from practice, I've been drawing pretty much my whole life. I'm very accurate, I'm very slow. So if I've got the time and I want to freehand, I freehand. Otherwise I use a projector or tracing and transfer paper. So I guess that's technically three methods that I will use. But I mean, you can't tell whether I freehanded or if I traced something. It all looks the same, but those are the ways that I go. The grid takes so long, and I'm really bad at math and measuring, and I was way more accurate to freehand. So that was my experience with the grid. A lot of people use them and do wonderfully with, it's not that, I'm not saying it's a bad method. It's just my brain is like, nope, that's not going to happen. Blue Tea Art said, could you use acrylic brushes for oils? So yes, you can use acrylic brushes for oils, but I won't use my acrylic brushes for oils. Like my oil brushes and my acrylic brush sets, they're two different sets, but they look pretty much the same brand, same type, very similar. The reason is the oil is going to stiffen your brushes really quick, no matter how well you clean them. They are just going to get a little too, slightly stiff, fine for oil. Not for acrylics. With acrylics, we want our brushes to be a bit softer, or at least for how I paint. So it's just not a fit. So I don't mix the two. Now, there have been times where I needed an oil paint brush and I'm like, I just need this really quick, and I'll go grab one of the acrylics, and I just now turn that acrylic brush into an oil painting brush. So that is my method there. The other thing is, you have to make sure your brushes, like let's say I was painting an acrylic and it was wet, and the next day, if that brush is, well, it probably would be dry the next day. Or let me flip that around. Let's say I was painting in oils. I cleaned it out with my paint thinner, my brushes, all that. It takes a really long time for the water, because the oils mix it, everything for the brushes to dry in oils takes a very long time. And if you keep painting them with water, it can get into, there can be some problems. I guess that's just the easier way to sum that up. So I don't mix the two, but when you're shopping for a brush, you're buying new brushes, a brush that's marked for acrylic can work just fine for oil, and the other way around. It just depends on what type of brush you're looking for the type of technique you're trying to do. Carla said, hi everyone. Hi Carla. Alexandra, and I apologize, this is super far away and I am having a hard time reading these tonight, so I'm probably going to mispronounce and misread everything. So, you know, have fun with deciphering what I'm trying to say. Alexandra said, what type of paint works best for painting animals? There's no best. It's what you like to work in. I like to do acrylics. I like to do oils. I mean, if you mean what type of oil paint specifically, like where with colored pencils, I can tell you, well, for portraits, I like a wax-based pencil. It's not really like that, or at least not that I've experienced with oil paints. Either is fine. Now, as far as painting animals, there's not a single medium I have ever worked in that I didn't like. So I can't say one's better than the other. That just comes down to personal preference. Okay, can I do an acrylic, a tutorial in acrylic? I do a coral tutorial in acrylic. Yes, actually, I will be doing the one of my Greyhound sleeping on an Italian Greyhound bed very soon. I just have to get the right photos, but there will be coral involved in that, and that will be acrylic. Actually, the whole thing will probably be acrylic. Okay. And make sure do the Lachri fine art. If it does not highlight in orange, whoops, hitting things. If it doesn't highlight in orange, I just won't see the question. It's not that I'm trying to ignore you. I just won't see it. Yay, coffee. I just spit on myself. Lovely. Okay, painting. Let's start. So what I'm going to start with, and usually the same thing, whether it be a Greyhound or an Italian Greyhound, and I do this with most animals, but especially a breed that has the rosed ears like this, I will almost always start with the ears. The ears are kind of, they're very involved. There's a lot of folds, there's a lot. So I'm going to, I just like to start there and get it out of the way. It's not my favorite part to work on because it's like, oh, yay, you painted an ear. Unfortunately, the ear I probably put more time into than the majority of the rest of the face, even though most people aren't going to look at it and be super impressed with an ear. They like the eye that took me 30 seconds. So, you know, that's where I start. Casey said, any chance of that graphite piece on sanded paper soon? Graphite on sanded paper. I need to try that. Maybe I can use my Fisher 400 since I'm like obsessed with the Lux Archival now. I can use that as a tester. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll try that. I should try that. Okay. I actually forgot that I wanted to try that until you said it right now, so I'm glad you brought that back up. As far as when, I have no idea at this point. I'm going to start with a round. Just because. Now, some people will thin their paint out with paint thinner. You absolutely can do that. I rarely do. And that, again, personal preference. It just doesn't give me the results that I'm the way that I paint. And it's not an issue of this way, like, is going to look better than that way. It completely comes down to the artist. I just thin everything with my liquid. It is rare that I thin anything with my paint thinner. Part because my paint thinner container is filthy. So, you know, I don't really want to drag that into the painting. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start in with some of the darker areas. So I know here is pretty dark. Now, usually I will start with my background, and I'm not going to do that here because I want to be able to rest my hand on this. And if I paint that background, paint is wet and I have to get out the mall stick, which I actually found last night. That's been missing since I moved, but I would have to do something to rest my hand. I can't do that. So I'm not going to do the background until the subject, or at least the base of the background. I'm not going to do that until the subject is painted in, just so that I can rest my hand and be a nice lazy artist there. I'm a fan of lazy. Now I do have to be careful because moving my hand around, I can smudge that. Like already I can see graphite on the side of my hand. So, you know, there's that. Let's see. Whoops, got some questions here. Sarah said, when you sit down to work, do you find it easier to think in terms of time? I'm going to paint for 2 hours, or in terms of tasks. I'm going to finish the nose however long. That's a good question. With me, usually I know I'm going to paint from, like if I sit down, let's say I started painting at 8, I know I'm going to paint till midnight. So I have that, but there are times where let's say I'm on a deadline, I'm running behind, then I find tasks easier than the time limit. Because it can get overwhelming. If I know, like, okay, I'm going to paint for 8 hours today, it can be a bit overwhelming there. So I may do, okay, I'm not going to take a break until I finish this ear. I'm not going to take a break till the nose is, you know, that little thing. So I guess it kind of depends. That's a really good question. I haven't thought about that. But with me, because it is my job, I also have a schedule where it's like, okay, these are the hours I have to paint today. I'm going to pull a little bit of black. So I don't do this completely how a lot of people do, where they just paint everything with raw umber. I mix black and I mix white in that base layer just because that's how I like to paint. It is long, whatever you like, whatever you're painting, as long as it is not affecting the archival, I can't talk tonight because that's new. As long as it's not affecting the archival quality of the work, meaning it's going to last however long, paint whatever method works best for you. Now, another question, and I know I'm going to get asked this several times, so if it comes up again in the live stream, if you guys can like answer for me a bit, the reason I don't have to worry about fat over lean when I paint in oils, and what fat over the lean is, if I'm sure you've heard about it, you'll see people talking about that. And what it is you want your thinner layers that you've thinned with oil or with paint thinner. You want those down first. Those layers are going to dry very quickly compared to something that has more oil in it. A fat layer would be the layers that are considered more oil is a fat layer, more paint thinner is a thin layer. So it's a simplified way to look at it. I mean, you can go further into it, but that's the simple way of understanding it. When you get the really thick layers, thick paint, you want that on your final layer. So like when I put thick paint with very little paint thinner mixed in, or not paint thinner, but liquid mixed in, like maybe for the shine on the eye, although that one doesn't have a bright shine, but if it did, I'm going to do that for my later layers because it's very thick, that's going to be a fatter layer. But normally, that's the only time I would worry about it, but that's the best time to put the highlight on, an opaque highlight there anyway. But normally I do not have to really fuss over or worry too much about fat over lean because all of my layers, beginning to end, are the same. There's very little difference in how fat versus lean. One, I'm not using paint thinner. Everything's thinned with liquid. So it's all going to be about the same. And I do a lot of glazes, and all of those glazes are going to end up being about the same. So that's just not something that I have to worry about. Now, artists who paint where they're using thicker paint and varying from paint thinner to more oil, or all of that, then you've got to worry about that. Because what happens if you put let's say you've got a thick layer or a fat layer. You put that down, that's going to dry very, very slowly. You put a layer that's thin on top that's going to dry fast, you will cause those base layers, it kind of pulls it almost like it cracks. It affects negatively the drying time, all of that, and how archival the paint is. That's when it's a concern. But if you paint like me, where everything is about the same, I don't have to worry about any of that because there's not really much variation in any of these layers. They really are all pretty much the same level of fat versus lean. Let's see. We have, oops, and that's rolled too far. No one's shocked. Starving Artist Collective. Hi, Lisa. I know you're enjoying your new home, but what about your new neighborhood? Any shops, galleries, landmarks, etc. that you're liking? I live kind of in the middle of nowhere. They're building fast, like crazy fast. But right now, nothing exists. Oh, I forgot to grab Q-tips. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me grab some Q-tips. I need that for the way that I paint this. And I'll come back to that. See, I haven't worked in oils in too long. I forgot all the things that I like. So yeah, no, out here, no galleries. There's like this little town. We drove through it, and like if you blink, you just pass their main street. But they're building like I'm just gonna wipe some of this off where I want it a bit lighter. And not because this isn't considered because of a mistake. This is a technique that I use to like lighten areas versus actually putting lighter paint on, which I will do as well, but just for this area. So yeah, there's not much. There's no trees. It's ugly, to be quite frank. Like this area, this is not a pretty area yet. The hope is that it will be, and it was very cheap compared to like the areas that I thought were the more established neighborhoods that I thought were really, really pretty. I couldn't get the size house I needed to also have the size gallery, or not gallery, but the workspace that I needed. So that's why we ended up coming out to the middle of nowhere. Although we're a little bit annoyed because they're talking about putting apartments like 2 minutes from me. It's a whole thing, which makes no sense because you don't put apartments in the middle of nowhere. And of course, nobody is happy about this. And the traffic up here is a nightmare because there's one road in and out to a million freaking homes. There's so many homes, but no, they never widen the road, and there's plans, but not for a very long time. So putting an apartment is even like, it's a bit of a nightmare. So that's a bit stressful. I'm not real thrilled about that. That is definitely something that would certainly make me inspired to move. Hold on 1 second. No. Okay. I sent my husband a picture of Gibson laying on the Italian Greyhound bed. He's like, what the heck? Are they in there? I'm like, no, they're not in there. Don't want him to, he'd be at work worrying that the dogs are being squished by the big one. I would not do that. Let's see. But yeah, there's not really much there. We do have creeks and stuff, so I do want to get a kayak like my own and not have to rent. I think that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, so far there's not anything. But we do have things close enough we could kind of drive to other cities, I guess. Shelly said, do you use oil over acrylic to speed things up? Yes, absolutely. Today, I'm not doing that, but because I wanted to do just a 100% oil painting lesson. But yes, I often do because the techniques that I do too for oil. So let's say you're an acrylic painter and you're watching this, you can do the exact same thing that I'm doing right now with acrylics. You're just instead, where I'm using liquid to thin the paint, you're going to use water. So that would be the big difference, and your paint will dry a bit faster. Well, a lot faster, but you can do the same technique. So, you know, if acrylic is your medium, don't feel like you're being left out on this one. Just gonna smudge that in. And I don't care if it stays more brown, more black, none of that matters. It's just kind of picking out my general lights and darks. Actually, and one of the things that I do like to do, now this would be different for you acrylic painters. I need to get another round brush, or I guess this guy will work. Yeah, whatever. I will use a different brush for light areas versus dark. So this will now be my light brush for either my light raw umber or my white, and then this brush will stay for my raw umber and my black. Because that way I don't have to continuously clean brushes as I'm working. I just grab whichever one, because the paint dries so slow, I can leave them sitting here for hours and it'll be fine. Now, if you are painting in acrylics, do not do that. Rinse your brush in between. Even here, this is actually going to be really light. I will pull white into that. Now, I don't care if things are perfectly blended, any of that, but I do want to make sure if I've got like brush strokes showing that they're going in the general direction of his fur. Oh wait, no, we got that one. Jenny said, autofocus is autofocus. Oh, yes, I bet it is. Thank you. Let's fix that. It resets. That's one of the few things it resets every single time. Let's change it on both the palette. Okay, the palette one is off. Now we will change it on the easel. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Completely forgot about that today. There we go. Okay, autofocus is terrible for art lessons. Thank you. Let's see. That will be fixed moving forward. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Whoops. Oh, I missed a bunch of questions. Hold on one second. There we go. Bob said, you made a video about schedules a while ago and you said you were going to make a schedule again, wondering if you stuck to it. That's my New Year's resolution, to stick to a schedule. So right now my schedule is about to completely change. My husband's hours are going to change and I'm going to rework my schedule around that. So I basically move it back so that I'm hopefully done painting or working hopefully sometime before he gets home. Otherwise I get distracted and I don't get a whole lot of work done. And he'll be working 5 days instead of 4 days. So I've got to readjust everything. Plus, until they finish the houses across from me, the construction is super loud and it makes it kind of impossible to get videos created or made in the morning. And normally I do those at night. I'm having to redo everything. So right now I'm not on a very strict schedule, which I kind of hate. I really was enjoying how much I was getting done on that schedule. But by February, all of this is going to reset. So I'm kind of just half doing my way, like limping through till February, when those houses should be mostly done, at least the majority of that noise. And then my husband's schedule should be changing around that time. So I'm going to completely have to redo it. I could redo it now, but it's like, I know I can't stick to it when I do until, you know, that it'll be changing. So maybe I'm just making excuses and being lazy, but it takes a little bit of time to do and to figure all of that out. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like till everything changes. So no, I'm not sticking to it right now, but I definitely will be once that all, like, we figure out for sure what that schedule is going to be. Where did the brush, I'm missing a brush. Where did I set that? There it is. And this is when I get complaints from people saying, I hate how it sounds when the brush scrapes on the canvas. I don't even know what you guys want me to do. Actually, not that many people make that complaint, but I always get someone who complains that. I'm like, what am I supposed to do about that? I can't edit that out. It's live. Kind of makes me laugh. Brian says, what is the minimum size you would paint a portrait or animal or person to maintain realism? For me personally, I would say 8 by 10, and that's even pushing it. But that doesn't mean you can't do smaller. I see people who like to paint teeny tiny things, and it looks like a photograph. So I mean, it can be done smaller, but me personally, I won't go smaller than an 8 by 10 in most cases. I just don't enjoy trying to get that kind of detail any smaller. Otto says, I've always worked in graphite for my portraits. Which one would you say would be the best transition with polys or luminance as far as how they lay down? I cannot afford both. If it's for portraits, I would go with luminance. I think that they're easier to get the skin tones, to get the smooth blending. I like the polychromos when you get the detail in the hair, but I would probably go with the luminance first if I had to decide between the two, and portraits were my primary goal. Now, if it were animals as my primary, then I would go with polychromos. Now, I went with polychromos first, and I just added a few luminance here and there to get the skin tones that I wanted, and that worked out well for me. But if you're only going to go with one for now for portraits, I like wax-based pencils better for portraits than I do, or at least the skin of them, than I do the oil. The oils I like for finer details, like little feathers and hair and fur and that sort of thing. So like this painting, I like to combine them both, but I would probably go with polychromos on this, but on a human portrait, then I like luminance. Let's see. Oops. Here we go. Nick said, middle of nowhere. That's the North Pole. Funny. Yeah, Nick's been waiting forever for his Amazon delivery of his new airbrush because he lives in the North Pole. Carla said, thank you for all your live videos. We are so grateful for your expertise and advice. Thanks. I'm glad. Thanks for joining me, guys. This would be very boring without you. Elaine said, you need to, telling somebody else, you need to do the @ symbol, and then Lachri fine art after it for me to see your question. Yeah, and I promise I'm not trying to ignore you. It's just that if it doesn't highlight in orange, I won't see it. If you can't get it to highlight in orange, I understand, I can't either. Ask one of the mods or somebody else and they'll ask the question for you. Clark says, with acrylics, we blow dry and go paint over it for the next layer. How do you adjust when using oils? Tried the medium once and haven't gone back. So, this dries overnight. So I might work in acrylics, focus on one area a bit longer than I would with oils. So, because you can dry and go right on. So what I'm doing tonight, this is such a thin layer. This is, like, I can touch it and it's a little coming off, not a lot. But this will be mostly, this is not the brush I need. This will be dry enough to start getting detail. So, but I'll move around. Like when it starts getting slippery and the paint's not sticking, that's how I know, okay, it's time to let this dry, leave it alone, come back to that area, like go work somewhere else, work on another area of it, and then go back up here once that dries a bit more, which might be the next day. It depends on how thick you put it on, but that's, I just kind of skip around a little bit more than what I would do on an acrylic so that I can work on one area. And then the other thing with oils, when I went through a phase where I just wanted to do oils for a while, I'd have like 3 going at the same time. So I could work on one, that one needs to dry, grab the other one, work on that one. So I had kind of an assembly line going to counter that dry time when I wanted to paint longer than, because I'll get to a point on this where like tonight will be the longest, well really probably tomorrow night because I won't get that much done tonight during the live stream, but I will get to a point where it only takes maybe 30 minutes of painting and then I need to let it dry again. So that's where it can be helpful if you really like oils to have multiple projects going at a time. And oils are the only, if I wanted to stick with oils, they're really the only one I do that with. Otherwise I have a tendency not to get things finished. But that has worked out well for me. Let's see. Oops. Otto said, have you listened to any good audiobooks lately? I've actually been listening to The Witcher, the first one of that, because I like the show, so I'm like, I want more information. I bet they'll explain stuff better. So I've been listening to that, but mostly I've been on a binge of watching, so A&E now has been, I guess they've been doing it for a while. They've been uploading to YouTube different shows, like Hoarders. I went on a Hoarders binge. I went on what else was I? Oh, 48 Hours and some of these like cold case shows. Went on a binge with that. So now I've just been, YouTube keeps suggesting all these like murder mysteries. So I've been watching that for like a couple of weeks now. I've been on this whole murder mystery binge. I'm going to start having nightmares if I don't lay off those. Maybe there's something wrong with, every time I realize how many of these murder mysteries I'm watching, I'm like, there's got to be something wrong with me. This can't be normal. This can't be healthy. So yeah, that's it. I'm currently reading myself. I really like the books by Annette Marie. They're a young adult kind of fantasy type thing. Which one just came out? I don't know. If you look up Annette Marie, whatever books that just came out, those ones are fun. They're not like anything super serious, but they're fun. Mary said, hey Lisa, have you fenced in your backyard for the dogs yet? My uncle had 2 rescue greyhounds and they were a track into the lawn around his pool in Florida. They love to run. Well, these houses all here come fenced in, so yes, I would not let him loose without a fence. You know, the whole sighthound thing. But yeah, it was funny earlier. So we taught him to ring a bell. Well, by taught, I mean I put a bell on the door, and every time he'd accidentally touch it, we'd like jump up and open the door for him real quick. It took him all of like 15 minutes to figure out that trick. So now when he gets bored, he's constantly ringing the bell, but I don't want to like undo the good there. So I'm constantly getting up and walking over to let him out or open the door for him. And then he just wants right back in. But anyway, he thinks it's a fun game. So earlier he demanded out and I'm like, okay, you're staying out here for a bit now. I have to get some stuff done. I look out the window and he's just doing his laps, like just by himself out there running in circles. So yeah, he's actually kind of destroying the grass at this point because we don't have anything like we moved in November. And so they had just laid down the sod and it never had a chance to root because we had the freezing temperatures and it's Bermuda grass. And so it just never, well, it didn't root. And him running that hard is just like digging up these massive holes. So yeah, I'm going to have some work to do once spring comes and stuff starts growing to fix his track he's creating out there. But I figure it'll be fine because I'm going to actually rip some of that grass out so that I can plant the crepe myrtles along the back wall. And I'll just take the grass from there and kind of use it to plug anywhere where it's not growing after his little racetrack adventures out there. He doesn't do that. He'll do it maybe once or twice a day where he gets the zoomies and has to like run full speed. So see, right now everything's kind of fuzzy, not super in focus. Tomorrow is when I come through and clean everything up and really make everything in focus. Let's see. Whoops. Elaine said, would you recommend acrylics or oil for a newbie wanting to start painting? I did oils in high school and wore most of the paint and made a muddy mess due to impatience. And so that's the thing, the impatience and letting it dry, that is so important in making oils work. Oils were always easier for me to teach than acrylics. As long as the student will learn, like, this is when I need to stop. When it starts creating mud, stop and let it dry, come back the next day. But if you can get that, I think oils are the easiest to learn just because they blend so easy. But if you learn acrylics first and you switch to oils, you'll feel like you're cheating. It's so much easier. Like it's crazy the difference in how easy everything is to blend. The big thing is just watching where it goes. Now, the messy thing, that was my experience when I first started with oils. And it's something that you want to get used to, not because you do, I mean, they're not all some of them are non-toxic, but I mean, for the most part, you don't want this all over your hands. So you don't, like, my hands are completely clean, closed. I rarely get it, unless I drop a paintbrush. That I do fairly often. But I mean, I don't make a huge mess, and that's something that I think you want to get used to. And if you're used to acrylics, because that was my problem in acrylics, I had paint all over my hands. It didn't matter. It was dry almost instantly. So it took a bit for me to kind of get the hang of keep your hands out of the paint. Don't let the paint brushes, like, put it down and let it roll around. If you get paint on the handle, it ends up all over your hands and it's a whole thing. But besides that, as far as like the dry time, if you can learn when that is and how to stop and, don't keep messing with it, I think oils are an easier medium to master than acrylics are. So the big thing, watch some tutorials though, so they're showing you how, because that was the thing for me, I had to learn how to mix the mixing medium in with it and when to let it dry. You learn those things, then I think the rest is pretty easy in comparison. And of course, you want to work in a well-vented room, windows open or a window open or cracked if you can, keep a lid on it. Like I had to make sure, because Gibson's actually, I'm used to Italian Greyhounds, they can't reach any of my stuff. So I had to leave the lid on this when I was walking around earlier, because if he comes up and licks the liquid, that is extremely toxic. That is, I had a student whose dachshunds got into her liquid and it killed them. They did not make it. So you've got to watch out for stuff like that, that you really, it's not as big of a deal with acrylics. So those are, you know, there's definitely some drawbacks you've got to be careful with. AG said, I've been on the murder mystery binge my entire life. That makes me feel better, honestly. Seriously, you start thinking like, why do I keep watching these? Why am I fascinated by this? Maya said, you should try Good Omens. It's amazing funny. Is it a book or a show? Trisha said, murder mystery binging, totally normal in my book. Okay, we're all wrong then. Ursi said, hi Lisa, went to Sierra Club meeting. Now it's over. Here now, how's it going? Beautiful drawing on the Greyhound and cute dog. Thanks, everything's good. Glad you made it. Hope your meeting was fun. Oh, scrolled too far. Come on, go back up. Tammy said, that's all I watch, like, is A&E and these cold case stuff, so we can both be not normal together. Okay, this is funny how many of us are so, I'm just gonna say we're wrong. Boz said, did you filter your reference into sepia color to the base layers tonight? I didn't, because he's a black dog. He's already, I mean, I'm not having a hard time judging the values on this one because he is black. I mean, the majority of the colors in the reference photo are black and white, or, you know, right around there. So this one was so easy to judge that I didn't do that. But normally I would, or I'd at least make it black and white so I could see the values. But because of his color, I already can. Good question. Let's see. Diamond Painting with Esky said, is the 24 set of polychromos a good way to try them? I purchased it today and it should be here in a week or two. Absolutely. I did, if you go back and look at a video I did of a macaw, it was using just the set of 12. You can mix just about anything you need. You do not need the full set to get started. Everyone will, you know, they want like a set of 50 or 150 colors, so they'll get the cheap ones because that's what they can afford. And it's like, no, get a set of 12 of the good stuff. That you're better off on. You can mix and blend with colored pencils just like you can with paint. I mean, it's a bit different, but you can mix into other colors. So, and it's using a smaller color palette is such a good way for you to learn color mixing and color blending and all of that. So absolutely, that's a great set. I mean, I always say get as many as you can afford, but, you know, after doing that set of 12, I'm thinking, I don't know, then maybe a smaller set is better for a lot of people to get started with. At least, especially if you're intimidated by, I don't know which color to choose. When you only have one or two yellows to choose from, the choice isn't so difficult. Let's see. Shelly said, how many layers do you feel you generally need to go with fat over lean to get your desired value? I'm using around 3 to 4, but I want to be sure I'm not layering too thick. Well, like I said earlier, I don't really do the fat over lean rule. I don't have to, because all of my layers are the exact same. Like there's no variation, so it's not something that I'm worried about. How many layers I do, it just depends on what I'm doing and how quickly I got to the results that I wanted. I usually will spend maybe 2 or 3 days doing, 2 or 3 painting sessions, I should say, doing my underpainting with the sepia tones, and then I'm going to spend another 2 to 3 days doing the color portion of it. So that's just how I work with it. That usually, so I guess that would in that case be like 6 layers total for the whole painting. But it depends. There are times I need to do a lot more than that. It just completely depends on what the subject is, how much detail I needed to do. Because if there's a ton of detail, that paint just starts to create mud and you just have to stop and let it dry to get more of that in. But normally, like this one, I'll spend tonight, tomorrow, and Friday doing the sepia underpainting, and then that will be this week's Patreon lesson, just that. And so technically that could be a complete painting. It is done if you like that look. And then next week, the week after, will be glazing color over everything, which isn't a ton. I mean, he's a black dog. So the thing that I like about this, and this is one of the challenges that a lot of people have when they're painting black fur, is that they think, they'll look at the dog in, like, if you look at the photo, where did I post it? Oh, I just posted that in the retired Greyhound owners thing on Facebook. But if you look at any of the photos, like if you go to my Facebook or Instagram that I posted of him, you look at him, you're like, that just looks like a black mess. Like it's almost just a silhouette of black that you're seeing because in darker colors. But what I did is I took the photo in the light. I have the lights here, and I waited until the afternoon where it was shining super bright in one light. Had him lay down and he was laying down. And take the photos that way. I had to tone down the highlights so much in Lightroom to get it to where it was just almost white. It was so overexposed on his highlighted areas. If you get the lighting right on a dark dog like that, you can still see all kinds of detail in there. So with black fur, it really comes down to getting a decent photo, the right lighting with that. And for me, there's 2 times a day that I'll get it, either earlier in the morning, I'm not awake earlier in the morning, or a little bit later in the afternoon when the sun starts to go down. Now this time of year, the sun's low enough, I can usually get it any time of the day. If he's indoors, this is a south-facing windows. And the lighting was wonderful with the highlights and the shadows. But like any other lighting, when I look over there, I've got... Hold on. I will take a picture because that's hilarious. You guys have to see this. I will post it over on Instagram. What a dork. He's laying on... hold on. If you're on Instagram... It's Lisa_Lachri. You can see what I'm looking at right now. My very graceful Greyhound. But you can kind of see here now, here in these tones, because of the yellow and the lighting in here, my camera is making him look more brown, which he's not. So that's going to be a little bit different. But like if you look at some of the other photos, let's make this... One second. There you go. If you go over to Instagram, you'll see what I'm seeing right now, which is hilarious. But you can kind of see there, you're not seeing a ton of highlights. You're not, there you kind of are because his belly and his chest are showing a bit more. But you look back at some of my other photos of him where he's just solid black. So it really comes down to when you think, I can't paint a black dog, you can't see highlights, you can't see any detail, you can. You need to get the right lighting. And I think I posted, if you go, if you go, you can see the reference photo that I'm using. It's a couple photos back on Instagram. You can really see those highlights, the highlights and shadows. In other light, he will look just pitch black. So the right photo, the right lighting is what, as a pet portrait artist, you need to do. And the other thing is, write up something, because many times, like with me, most of the time when people hire me to do a pet portrait, I'm not taking the photo myself. So I've got to explain to the client how, well, I don't really do pet portrait or take commissions much anymore, but I would have to explain to the client how to get a good photo. So you need to learn how to do it really well yourself so that you can explain to the client how to get the good photo of their dog, that you get what you, like the information out of that photo that you need for when you paint it. So this is definitely, if you are into pet portraits, something you're gonna need to learn how to do. Other colors aren't as big of a deal, but black is one of those. If the lighting isn't, if you're not getting that quite right, you just can't see the information and it looks very flat, very dull. The darker the color of whatever subject, whether it be an animal, I don't know, like, my plants. I guess I have some that are almost black, but they're still alive, but they were supposed to be that way. But if you have any subject that you're painting that is almost black, you've got to get the lighting. You have to spend a bit more time to get the right lighting to make it work for you than you would with a lighter color. But it can still be done. That's kind of where I'm going with this, or the point of this. I hear so many people, I've had, gosh, over the years, how many people told me, oh, I'd love to have my dog painted, but he's black, so he doesn't photograph well. No, you don't photograph well. The dog's fine. You've got to get the right lighting. So, just you'll want to learn, if you are a pet portrait artist, learn how to do it yourself so that you can then teach your clients or explain to your client what you need them to do, how to get that photo. Okay, let's see. Where were we? Carlo said, I noticed that You sometimes do the underpaintings in pure black and white or mixed browns in. Does that have an impact in how you approach the piece? Thanks a lot. Love your videos. Okay, so the reason that I do this, whether it be black and white, now in this case, I just like the brown color first on those base layers, and it makes it easier if I want to tint things blue. And I do have, actually he does have a brown undertone in some of the photos, so it just, you know, works. But either way, whether I go with black and white or if I go with this way to me is a way easier painting than just jumping straight into color. And you can do that. I mean, I used to do that all the time, where things were painted first in color and I just kind of try to match the color and the values at the same time. But then I'm trying to match the colors and the values at the same time and making more work for myself all at once. If you can break that into two sections where you're just worrying about the values. So here, I don't care what color it is, it's just browns. Or if I was doing black and white, I don't care what color it is, it's just black and white. All I'm focusing on are my values. And it separates two things that can be a challenge, getting the color you want and getting the value you want, into two different parts, two different things to tackle. I'm only having to tackle the values tonight versus the color. Color doesn't matter. If I'm doing them both at the same time, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. Can it be done? Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have plenty of times. I've got plenty of videos where I just jump into the color, but this is definitely, I think, an easier way to go. I'd say it's my preference if I had to choose in most cases. Maybe not in landscapes. Landscapes, I just jump into color, but when it comes to portraits, I definitely, with portraits, prefer to do it in a monotone, paint a monotone underpainting, and then put color on top. I just think it makes it so much easier. And I love how it looks. So the more you glaze, the more depth you get in a piece. It just ends up looking a lot better. So here, I mean, I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone by getting the underpainting done, but it's also making it easier for me. And now I'll just glaze color, which creates more depth because of the way the light refracts through each layer. It just looks better anyway, in my opinion. I love the look of paintings that are glazed a lot more than just, you know, put the right color in the right place type. So, you know, there are a lot of reasons that I prefer this method. I think it offers a lot of benefits to the artist. And this, if like I had a new student who wanted to learn portraits, hands down, this is how I would have them do it. I would not have them jump into the colored section. Like, let's learn or just focus on our values and getting things located, you know, the ears and the nose and the eyes, and getting all those in the right place. So you're not worrying about color and that. Too many elements. Let's just break it up. Makes it way easier. Okay. Brent says, my 9-year-old asked what kind of horse you were painting. I said a dog horse. She's mad at me now. You know what? I've been calling him a horse since he moved in because I'm used to Italian Greyhounds, which are like 9 pounds, or mine are. Mine are small. And so, yeah, now to have the 67-pound horse over here, yeah, I call him a horse too. I would call him a moose, but one of my Italian Greyhounds, we call her Miss Moose. So, I mean, that's not her name, but it's her nickname. So it didn't work. Let's see. Lauren said, been a while since I watched, not art related, but how long have you had Greyhounds? I've had a Great Pyrenees and adore the breed. I've had Italian Greyhounds since 2005. I got my first. And then I've loved Greyhounds since I was a teenager. I've always wanted one. I actually wanted the big Greys in the first place, but I lived in an apartment at the time and you could only have a dog up to 20 or 25 pounds was the max weight in where I was living. So I got an Italian Greyhound. Not the same thing, but you know, similar, and I mean, they're both sighthounds. But yeah, that's how I got started with these guys. But now I'll definitely stick with the full-size Greyhounds, a better fit. I mean, I love my Italian Greyhounds, but they can be a challenge. they're a little drama queens. I'm just in love. Gibson's been such a perfect fit personality-wise. He's doing really good with the Italian Greyhounds too. They're doing better than I expected them to so soon. Like he was laying with them earlier, or he wants to lay next to them all the time, which I think is really cute. He seems to really like them. I just have to make sure he doesn't smush them because he's a horse. Let's see. Eileen said, when mixing colors on a project, how do you preserve them while working on a project? What is a good dark brown mix? I mix ultramarine and burnt sienna to make brown. You can definitely mix. I usually am too lazy to do so. Not always. Usually I put out burnt sienna and I mix my brown by mixing burnt sienna with a bit of black. That's normally how I get most of my browns. Van Dyke brown is a really good brown. Raw umber. It depends on what I'm doing and how lazy I am and how much I want to dig through all my tubes of paint to find. Usually the brown I go with is the first one I grab. Unless for some reason there's a very specific reason I need it, like that's the one I need. I'm not picky at all. I'm picky about my values. I'm not that picky about my color. So to me, I can't say this is the best brown. Like tonight, I'm using raw umber. That's usually my go-to when I do an underpainting. Van Dyke brown is a really nice one. It's just a nice neutral kind of mid-range. I would say maybe it has a more of a reddish tone, close than the burnt or the raw umber does. But burnt sienna, I really like. It's a reddish brown. So now I've got a reddish brown color ready to go, and all I have to do is mix it with black, and now I've got brown. So it's kind of it gives you a sort of a chocolate brown when you mix those two together. That's probably what I do more often than not, because I mean, I can get a whole lot of colors just from that. And then I get to be lazy and don't have to put many colors out on my palette. Whoops, where was I? I just scrolled too far. 1 second. Oh wow, that scrolled way too far. Let's see if I can get caught up on some questions really quick. I'm gonna put my brush down and try to like get through a few of these. I am way behind. I am apparently rambling a bit much tonight. Okay, Ariel said, I'm curious, what medium was the most difficult for you to learn when you were starting out? Which one was the easiest? I would say watercolor was the hardest for me. I didn't really understand it, and I just didn't have the interest in it because I was like, nope, this is too hard, back to acrylics. So that would probably be, but now that I've been using watercolor pencils, I love it, and I want real like watercolor pans. So I'm initially, and I think it was more me getting in my own way. I think it was that I had in my head it's too hard, even like I just wasn't learning how to use them properly. And that really can be said about any medium. Colored pencil, it took me a bit to learn how to blend in a way that didn't hurt my hand because of the arthritis in that one. But colored pencil to do portraits in colored pencil was probably the hardest for me to learn. To get the skin blended the way that I wanted. There were some not good method or looks in there. But with all of those mediums, it wasn't really an issue with the medium. It was my misunderstanding of the medium, I think, and not really getting how to get the best results from it. Let's see. Hi, Lisa. Have you had any issues in the past with oil beading? Using Winsor & Newton artist oils, it tends to happen on later layers when a lot of layers have already dried. No. The only time I've had a problem in that, and I don't use those varnishes anymore, was when I was trying to varnish, and sometimes I would get weird results. But I wasn't sure if that was more the liquid. But it's funny you say that now because I don't remember it happening in years. No, I'm not sure what the problem there would be, what causes it. I've never looked into it. I would contact, though, if that keeps happening, I would definitely contact Winsor & Newton and ask them what they suggest because I just don't know. Tammy said, I have a full set of Prisma and 12 set of both polychromos and Inktense. Will these be good to do on your Patreon lessons, or should I get more polychromos and other pencils? You absolutely can do those on those lessons. What you're gonna do is you'll do more mixing because I use a lot of colors. I mean, you've got the full set. I've got so many colored pencils, so I normally use a whole lot. You're just gonna figure out faster than the average person how to mix color because you're limited to a smaller batch. That's great. That's not a bad thing at all. So no, yeah, you'd be fine. And if you want for colored pencil, if you head over to Lachri.com, just go to Lachri.com. Actually, the link's in the video description, but I have a video library there, a Patreon video library. There's a free 2-hour-long demonstration in colored pencil, so you can kind of see if you think that would be beneficial to you. Let's see. Kelly said, Good Omen is both. It was a book written by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Ooh, I'm going to assume that was good if Neil Gaiman was involved. And it was turned into a miniseries on Amazon Prime. What? I am going to have to look into that. Thanks for bringing that one up. I'm going to look into that. Let's see. Elaine said, I'm asking for Miss Cash. She wants to know when you are doing another critique video. You know, hopefully soon. I do need to do another. We just finished the Patreon one. When was that? we finished the Patreon one, so the next one will be through MeWe. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to do one again sometime in the near future for sure. This brush is actually getting kind of thick. I do want to start getting some more detail than what I'm getting with it. Let me get some more base on the other ear, and then we'll switch to a lighter brush. It actually really helps when you guys ask me questions over and over again like that. Like bringing it up regularly reminds me, because like the graphite on sanded paper, I forgot I wanted to do that, honestly. Completely forgot I'd mentioned wanting to do it. Now that you bring it up, I'm like, oh, right. Same thing with, I have to be reminded about things quite often. Stacy said, my Shih Tzu and I watch Criminal Mind runs and other unhealthy shows. However, my Yorkie and Australian Shepherd and Pitbull are parole fans. That's too funny. Yeah, Criminal Minds. I went on a Criminal Minds binge a few months back. God, I watched a lot of those. I would put it on my phone on my easel while I was painting. Heather said, have you thought about doing a piece with Gibson and the girls all together? No, so this sounds terrible. I've already painted the girls several times, but the girls are very, very old and not healthy. One has cancer, the other has an autoimmune disorder, the older one has autoimmune. That it's just going to make me sad. So, you kind of protect yourself. Like, I'm not going to put a new painting on the wall because I don't want to walk by it. I need, you go through, everyone heals differently from the loss of a pet, and they've been a part of my life for so long, and I do already have paintings of them that I love. So, I'm not missing out on that. But no, I don't think so, because I think it'd make me too sad when I do lose them, and I know it's coming fairly soon. So no, I'm not going to do any more of them now. I might go back later, once you get over the loss, then I can go back and paint them. Whoops. But knowing that it's soon and it's something I'm gonna have to go through, I'm kind of separating myself from that right now and not like making it, I guess, easier on myself when it does happen. So it's not that constant memory until I get, to where I'm healed, I guess. So yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Let's see. Blue Tea Art said, can you use the Fredericks Belgian linen canvas for acrylic? Yeah, this one is an acrylic based, acrylic primed, whatever, I can't talk. So this one could be used for either, but I have some that are oil primed. I prefer, if I'm working straight in oils, I prefer the oil primed, but the smallest oil primed I could find today was a 16 by 20, and I didn't want this to be, because this will go on my wall, and I didn't want this in a 16 by 20. I wanted to save that for like more of his body showing, not just for the head. So can you tell I already have lots of plans for painting him a lot? So yeah, no, this one can be done for acrylic. This is suitable for either, but if you're only working in oil and you're choosing one or the other, I would go with the oil primed, because it just, that paint glides. I mean, it glides on this one. This one's really nice too, but I really like the oil primed for oils. Let's see. Nick said, the Italian Greyhound bed is now a snuggly pillow. Yeah, he's still laying on it. I think he wants to be next to them. Like when he's in the other room, he likes to lay on his bed next to them. It's really cute. Now that Jessie stopped growling, and well, she stopped that after a couple of days. But let's see. He's afraid of them. He's afraid of the 9-pound dogs. Joseph said, I have 2 black cinnamon cats, which are pure black until they are in the sunlight, and then they are brownish red. Does Gibson's coat do that too? A little bit, yeah. Not so much of the red as almost a seal. So like Italian Greyhounds, this color here, we would call that seal. He's not that brown, but in certain light, he almost is, but in other light, like whereas a seal dog, you would still see that they're brown, he looks just pitch black. So one of my girls, Echo, that Italian Greyhound, she's a pure black, and she has almost a bluish tint, not the reddish brown tint to her. So he has more of, I guess, the brownish, like the seal undertone, more so than Echo does. But not as extreme as like it's not a super red tone. He has some, like his face in here is very similar to a Doberman, the brownish tones that he'll get here, but the rest is mostly black with a tint, like just a little bit of the seal. Beak said, I've come to concede that art is in the rendering and I suck at it. No, I think I have to learn to break it down square inch by square inch. Yes, okay, if you are struggling, that is what you want to do. If you're trying to make stuff look more realistic and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is just like, it's overwhelming and it's not looking how I want, break it down. Don't force it. Where am I? Am I in the right place? Yeah, I think this comes, yes, okay. Don't force it. Don't try to jump all over. Like when you see me paint, I jump all over the place. If you are struggling, break it down. Do not jump all over so much. Smaller areas at a time will make it way easier. I had a student years ago. She's the coolest lady. She was someone I worked with in person, and she was doing a sea otter, and she'd been okay. I mean, she was decent. Had been working in acrylics. I think she did oils and acrylics, but if I remember correctly. But I know at this point she was working in acrylics, and she was good, but not when you looked at the sea otter she was using it as a reference. She wasn't that good, not yet. Oh, she was. When she broke that down, she did what and you guys on Patreon, you've heard me talk about this. Take a piece of paper, cut out a square inch, put that on your paper. Obviously, oil painting, you're not going to do that. But put it on there where you only see that square inch and cut out the same square inch to cover your reference photo. And that is the only thing you care about in that painting until it's 100% done. Then move on to the next. She did that on, it was the wet fur of the seal. It looked like a photograph. So you took somebody who was good. I mean, she was decent, but not that good. And she broke it down in that square inch, or, square inch by square inch. It was amazing. This painting, it just took her to such another level. And that is the only change she made. She put more time into it because of it. But that was the thing that took her from being okay to holy crap, that's amazing. So yeah, that's a really good way to go. Oops, I just hit buttons I didn't mean to hit. Let's see. Again, make sure you do the @Lachri fine art, or I just don't see your questions and I apologize. Or sometimes I do like what I just did right now and scroll too far and miss everything. Here we go. Gail said, what device are you using for your reference photo? This one's just a Windows 10, what is it, an HP something laptop that's hooked up to a bigger monitor. So here I can, adjust how big or small I want the image to be. It's a touchscreen one. And then here, it's actually my backup one that I used to use for live streams, but I got the better one for live streams. So now this one has moved on to my reference photo one, but it's attached to a really big monitor, a 27-inch that is up like on a shelf over here. And that's what I'm actually looking at for the reference. Jacob says, watching this while painting a landscape in gouache, your streams are always so relaxing. Oh, thanks. Thanks for joining. Shelly says, we've had several Italians and love the breed. My hubby had Whippets years ago and found them a nice in-between size. Yeah, Whippets too. I just love all sight hounds. I'm a huge fan of them all. I love, Borzoi are probably my favorite. I would love a Borzoi, but they just don't live that long. Like they're a giant breed, so they've got a shorter lifespan, and I don't think I could handle losing one that young. So yeah, that's my, well, this is a morbid live stream, but that's the only reason I didn't go with those. I love Borzoi. There's something about that braid that is so pretty. And such sweethearts too. Let's see. Jenny said, thanks for your critique on my mini dog portraits. Your feedback helped future commissions. Do you find cats to be more difficult to paint versus dogs? I don't really find any difference between the two. Either one, I mean, it's no matter what subject, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter what subject I'm painting. Nothing's harder than the other. It's just, paying attention to your reference photo. It really all comes down to how good the reference photo I have is. So no, I definitely don't find, a horse versus a dog versus a cat versus a African bongo, like it's all the same to me. I'm just looking at that reference photo and copying what I see. Jackie said, thanks for your, oh wait, no, I got that one. I can't read. Joe said, I see you're switching freely between Taklon and synthetic hoghair brushes. Besides different shapes, do you switch based on the texture you're trying to create? Sometimes, absolutely. Now, normally when I lay my initial layers down with oil, I will almost always lay them down with Taklon bristle brushes. They just work well for me. And then I switch when I'm kind of spreading things around. That's when I'm switching over to that synthetic hoghair. Ursi said, I like the tone structure to this dog's ears you're painting. Thanks. It's one of my favorite things about Greyhounds and Italian Greyhounds, Whippets. I love the rosed ear shape. I just think they're so cute. I hate painting them, but I think they're so cute in person. Have I ever worked with gouache? A little bit, not enough to give tips. I mean, it's opaque watercolor. I've worked with it a little bit. It felt very similar in many ways to Inktense to me, kind of. But it's not something that I've really invested much time into at all. It wasn't like I disliked it. It was like, okay. I have so many mediums to work in. I'm like hesitant to add more. Let's see. Sarah said, I've gotten back into watercolor and I find that it's not so easy to paint back over a color if I don't like it, like in acrylics. I've learned to test my colors on a piece of scratch paper. Absolutely. That's definitely a thing with acrylic or with watercolor. They are not as forgiving when you want to change those colors and such. You definitely have to, I think, have a bit more of a plan in place. Wait, where am I? Okay, this is actually not going to stay that dark. We'll just pull that up. I'm just going to lay this medium color all in here and then come around with the darks. I think that'll make it easier. I don't even know what my lines are supposed to be, so I'll just kind of freehand that in as I go. Okay. Now I can just add dark on that. Do I watch Blue Bloods? No, I do not. What is that on? I don't have TV, like normal TV, so if it's not on even Netflix, I never watch. Rarely, I'll watch The Witcher. Mostly it's like YouTube, well, right now, YouTube crime shows. I'm not even sure what Blue Bloods is. I've heard of it, but I have no idea what it is. Pauline said, you are cracking me up with the murder shows. I told my hubby he could watch murder shows tonight because I was going to my room to listen to Lisa, and yet here I'm still bringing them up. You can't get away from them, can you? Starving Artist Collective said, you were talking about watercolor painting. I was thinking of a YouTuber, Maria I cannot say that, Rekzinska, who seems to paint watercolor in a colored pencil type technique. Makes me think of you. I'm going to have to look her up. That sounds cool. Casey said, or what about Murder, She Wrote? God, I haven't even heard of that show in so long. I have no idea if I would like it now. I don't remember ever like watching it. I mean, I remember it being on TV, but not like, it never interested me when I was a kid. So I wonder if now as an adult, if I would like it. Okay, let's see. We've got shadow here. Actually, it's probably more here. Let's see if I can block in some of these. Now, I am paying attention to which direction the fur goes, even though I'm not like really going crazy trying to get any details. But if I have brush strokes, I do want to make sure they are going the right direction. Let's see, Steve said, I missed the wind chimes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I will be putting those up. I need to find out for sure. I want to double check with my neighbors that they don't mind wind chimes, because you know some people, wasn't it you, absolutely hate them. So, I don't want to drive them crazy. But yeah, I haven't done anything. Like my plants are in my balcony or my patio, but I haven't put up my lights. I haven't done anything. I'm kind of waiting till spring to set all of that up. They're coming. They're definitely coming. And especially here, it's windier here than where I was before, so I've got to watch where I put them because I think they're going to be like crazy noisy. Oh, itchy noise, stop. Okay, that's too funny though. Carla said, I'm back. It took a little bit to eat dinner. Want me to tempt y'all with mom's southern cooking? A little bit, yeah. My husband finally got his barbecue set up, so I've been loving life with that for the last week. He's barbecuing all the things. Turns out everything's better on a barbecue, and it doesn't make a mess in the kitchen, which is even better. Let's see. Jackie said, how do you continue to paint when you have commissions while dealing with a flare-up? I also have fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis. How do you minimize inflammation while painting for a long time? So mine is diet. I know some of you guys are like, oh, here she goes. She talks about it every week. But mine is through diet. I don't Okay, so I've technically been, I guess you could say, having a flare up lately, but it's because I've been eating like crap. I've eaten every potato I can get my hands on and Fruity Pebbles. And so sugar and carbs, and I mean, sugar, carbs are kind of the same, but usually if I cheat with carbs, not with sugar. I have been cheating with everything, and I just stopped that, like, what, New Year's? I'm like, okay, we're done. So well, sort of, New Year's, and then we refreshed it, like, we're going to make it even more strict. My husband and I are both much more strict now. So I eat more, somewhere between paleo and keto is kind of what my diet, what works best for me with the fibro. If I stick to that, I don't have the pain. I really don't have many issues. And so for me, that is how I deal with it. But even before I figured out with diet how to control all of that, I mean, I'm going to be in pain whether I'm at the easel or I'm like laying in bed. Actually, for me, it's worse if I lay in bed. My back does not handle staying still well. Which is a horrible combination when you have fibromyalgia, because you combine the fatigue of I just want to sleep and my back's like, don't even try to lay down right now, I will go out on you. But because the pain does get so severe, it makes it easier for me to control it and keep my diet more strict, which I'm now getting back to. I'm in a decent amount of pain right now. My neck is killing me, but because I know it's easier now because it's like, I know it's my own fault. So when I'm in pain, it's not like, oh, poor me. Because I think I used to feel that way a bit more, like, man, my life sucks. I can't believe I'm having to go through this. I can't even imagine being a normal, healthy person. And now I know when I feel like in as much pain as I am now, it's because of my choices I made on all the potatoes. So that's like my favorite thing in the world are potatoes. So now I've cut that, and I'll start feeling better within a few days. And I think the knowledge, for me, that made a big difference. So if I look back to how I felt back before I knew how to control my diet, like that diet would make any difference, I just ate whatever. I never had like the hope of, oh, I know how long it'll take before I feel better. Now I know what I need to change in my diet, and I know I'm going to feel better soon. And so you've got like that hope of, this isn't forever. Whereas before I would feel like this is forever. And so the change in attitude, because I know how to fix it and how long it'll take, I guess that makes it easier for me to be like, okay, I feel like crap today, but I still have to work. And I know I'm going to start feeling better each day that goes by, that I get my diet back under, as my diet stays where it should be. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, my diet is how I'm able to function and get this done. Otherwise, there was a time when it was really bad and I was not getting much work done. But you get desperate and start looking online, like what things did people do to feel better? And you'll try just about anything when things get really bad. Okay, what is what here? So this is a dark shadow. This is a dark shadow all in there. Okay, and I'm just going to spread it out. And the reason that I'm going to pull this out right here isn't because I'm trying to make the perfect shadow. It's because I don't want a harsh line right there that I have to cover up later. So by pulling this out, since this is not an area I'm focused on, I'm only putting it there so I know what area of the ear I'm on. That is going to mean I don't have to fight a harsh line. Like this harsh line would be hard to hide if I didn't want it to be harsh later. This, I'm going to have to, I don't want that harsh later. So we'll just soften it out now, but I can see where that dark is going to go. Let's see. Where was I? Gail said, just curious, what do you plan to do with the background on this piece? And is this considered an underpainting? Yeah, this is what I would consider an underpainting. I go a little bit more elaborate on underpaintings than some people do, and less than others do. So it's just whatever works best for you. There's no this is how much work you have to do on an underpainting. You just figure out what works best for you. The background is just going to be kind of a soft mixture of colors that'll fade from a bluish green to a deep, deep blue and blackish. It'll just be a dark background. I want to play up the highlights and have them really pop against the dark background. And it'll go on my walls, and I like those colors. Let's see. Monica said, have you watched Columbo? I love the TV show. No, I've never watched that. Maybe I should. Jackie said, you talking about it helps me so much. Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you so much. I don't feel as alone. I know what you mean there, because you do start to feel like nobody else feels this way, and I don't know how to function. Life sucks. I'm done. You just start. I remember the times where I was just so I don't want to do this anymore. The pain, the this and that. And when you realize you're not alone, that other people feel that way, and that there may be things that you can kind of feel, at least for me, finding out what made a difference in my diet. I mean, I can't promise you it'll make a difference for you. Probably it will, but man, did that help me. It definitely helped me with my attitude on things too, because you start getting really depressed. Like, I'm never going to feel okay. Like, am I going to have to live like this forever? But that, you know, the changing my attitude, knowing like right now, I would be depressed if what I feel like right now was me, let's say 10, 15 years ago. I don't remember when I changed my diet. I would feel depressed right now. Like, here we go again. My neck is killing. Everything hurts. I'm so sick of this. But because I know it's not permanent, I guess it makes it like, I can deal. It'll be fine. I have something to look forward to when I start feeling better once, you know, my body readjusts to my diet being healthy again. Casey said, Blue Bloods as well is a murder she wrote on Amazon. Oh, I didn't know that's what that was. Okay, I'll have to look at it. My husband might watch that. Maybe that's why I've heard of it. I'll have to ask him about it. He always knows if I'll like something before I watch it, so I can just ask him. He watches everything. Carla said, have you tried golden... Does it say milk? Any kind of milk with turmeric, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and cinnamon heated and your choice of sweetener. I have a huge problem with arthritis in my hand. I have not. That is interesting. Huh. I mean, I take turmeric sometimes. Not that combination. That I can see, because most of those things in there, those are all anti-inflammatories, so I can see why that would make a difference. Huh. That sounds gross, but I also see where it would work. Steve said, I'm so glad you included another photograph of the blue macaw in this month's Patreon photos. I painted the last one what was that? I painted the last one, where did that go? It just scrolled up. I painted the last one, and I'm so excited to paint another portrait of this guy. Okay, I'm glad you like that, because I have a few photos of him, and I'm like, are people going to get sick of them? But I like had really good photos of him. So you'll be getting more. You've created a monster then, letting me know you like them, because I have a lot of good photos of that guy. I need to put some more bonus Patreon photos too. I need to go through. I just haven't had time. Whoops, that's not the brush I wanted. Oh, you climbed even more on top of the Italian Greyhound bed. Your bed was right there. Your whole body would fit in it. Yeah, he's confused. I mean, he doesn't look as funny as he did on the photo I just posted on Instagram, but... So see, what I'm doing right now, this brush, I don't know if you can see, it's starting to split a little bit. I don't take really good care of my oil brushes, let's be honest. I'm lazy. Like, I forget to wash them or condition them as often as I should. But the great thing is, if you're a wildlife artist or you paint grass and stuff like that, it works almost like a rake brush because it's split. So while I can't use this for fine, like straight lines, I'll switch to a liner brush. It's working really well for this. Let's see, I've got a big shadow in here. See what I mean with all the there's just a lot of detail on the ears of these guys. Whippets, Italian Greyhounds, anything with a rose ear. A lot of pits will have rose ears, so you've got same thing if you're painting certain bully breeds. You're going to have, if the ears are not cropped, a lot of times they'll rose. Pay attention to those in your paintings. They seem like they wouldn't be that important, but they are. And some of this is getting to the point, like I was kind of getting a little muddy, so I may have to just let it set a bit and come back to that when it dries tomorrow. Okay, so let's go ahead. I am going to let that set, and we'll move forward a bit. So this is a lighter area in here. And then I've got little hairs, so we can go ahead and do a few of those so we can keep the direction of that. Undecided Mike said, it's been a while since I watched your videos. I'm beginning to find my drive to create again and look into bigger things. Good. That's good to hear. Yeah, I find too, like whenever you feel where you're just not motivated and you're like, I can't think of anything. I'm not excited to paint. Try something you've never tried before. I find like, well, and even with me, it may not be something I've never tried before, but something I haven't painted in a while. I have not painted a Greyhound in a really long time. I've been super excited to get started on this. Actually, I'm really excited for the big surreal one I plan to do. He's not looking as elegant as I'm going to need for that. He's still on the little dog bed. But when you do something you haven't done in a while, I think sometimes that or like something new, something like in this case, this is a painting I want on my own wall. That's another added bonus too. So one, it's a dog, but I've not painted him yet, so that's always exciting to me. When it's your own animal and you get to paint those. I haven't painted Nugget yet either. Two, a painting I want for my own wall makes me super anxious to get it done, so that motivates me to paint more. Or if it's something that I just haven't done, it may be a bird I've never painted before, and that like will spark a bit more interest. Like trying something different than what you've previously done can help too. Madison said, "Would you say the best brush cleaner is to wash and help condition your brush?" What would you say? Sorry, I'm not reading that right. Is the best brush cleaner. So with oil paints, what I do is I clean them first in my paint thinner. I let that dry out, and then I use the Masters, the old Masters, I think is what it's called. It's like a tub. If it's not linked here, it should be linked on my website under supplies for oils or acrylics, and I use them for both brushes. That's what I use to clean and condition my brush. That's my favorite soap. Michelle said, what's the ratio of liquid to paint? It depends. There's no like definite. It depends on, do I want this to be a more translucent layer? I'm going to use more liquid. Do I want it more opaque? Less liquid. That's really what it boils down to for me in most cases. Sometimes I just want the paint to be a little bit thicker and I won't use as much liquid then. So there's no recipe, right to wrong. It completely depends on what area I'm working on. I mean, it's all about the same for me. There's not a huge variation, but I couldn't tell you like it's 50%, 50-50, 34. I have no clue. I just grab what I need till it feels right, if that makes sense. Kelly said, "My mixed breed has ears like Gibson's. This will be so helpful when I finally paint her." Yes, good. Yeah, ears, so much work. But they're so cute. Like it is definitely worth it if you put the time. I remember seeing an artist who would she was really good too, but she would put so much work into every other aspect of the painting, but skip over the ears. It was just like this big hollow, like, no, you more time there. Okay, a little darker in here. Yeah, I'll mess with most of that tomorrow. Now, one of the things that I will start doing, and I'll do this more when I get into the details, but when you're dealing with a dog whose fur is this short, don't try to force in every strand of fur. You'll make him look like he's like a goat. Don't try to force it. Let it be smooth. Here in the photo, I can see the hairs. I can see a few. I will paint a few, not many. Don't try to put them all in. It will look, well, he'll look like a goat. We don't want goat fur. Or the fur will look too long. That isn't what we want. When you have it very sleek, don't try to force in extra detail in there. Sometimes it's better just give yourself the hint. And I do the same thing when I paint horses that have very short fur. You'll get a hint of the fur, but don't try to take a liner brush and paint in all the strands. It doesn't generally look very good. Okay, what area do I want to move on to? Now that the ears are mostly in. Oops, that mouse is not for that computer. I guess I can start on his eye and then work my way around some of the shadows. And this eye, he doesn't have much as far as like a shine on it. It's actually super basic. So I'll start with the light first. I'm gonna get the light raw umber. Mix a bit more liquid in with that. Okay, so let's see. And I got this photo. So if you're having a hard time getting photos, because I hear this a lot from people too, well, I can't get a photo of my dog. One, please train your dogs. Like if your dog will not listen to you at all, if you can't get it to sit or lay down in one place, train your dog. But two, my dog's new and he's a bit of a challenge, but you start training him right away. So anyway, And I can go to somebody's house whose dog is not trained. If I am one-on-one with just that dog, well, the owner can be there too, but not like, if it's a room of dogs, I can't control them all. But you give me one dog, I can get it to lay down and sit. You give treats. Treats have to be involved. You've got to have a good payment. Make it worth it to the dog to listen to you. But I laid him down, and he was already not happy with me for making him lay on the carpet. He wanted to lay on a bed, but we had a disagreement. So I make him lay down, and he'd look at me and his eyes are look up like, really? I'm so put out by this fight right now. So the way I got the good ears and the good photo is I was taking a treat. I'm sitting on the floor. I've got my knee up. My camera is sitting on my knee. I'm holding, so the shutter button is on this side. I'm reaching over the camera this way, looking in to make sure it's focused where it's supposed to be. Taking this hand and tossing my flip-flops. I did that, worked a couple of times, and then tossing treats up. So when they land, he'd look down like, oh my gosh, I'm super interested. That's how I got that photo, because he was not thrilled with me for making him lay on the carpet and not the bed where he was, which is funny. He was laying on the carpet. Now he's the dog on that bed is hilarious. So yeah, that, just treats are a big way to go. But you want to make sure if you're taking your own dog's photos, get them to lay or sit is the easiest way. And then tossing treats, teach them to stay, and then toss treats for them to like look at, or a toy. If a squeaky toy is usually what'll work. He doesn't respond to squeaky toys, so it doesn't, that wasn't working for me. I had to find something that was a bit more like tasty, maybe hot dogs. Actually, I'm not sure if hot dogs or chicken or something like that, if he might actually jump up and go after those. I don't know if he's got enough control for that just yet. But that was how I got his attention, so that I can control where he's looking. Use toys, use treats, whatever. And what I would do for my Italian Greyhounds, because they've been with me longer, they're far better trained, I would do the same thing. I would put the camera on the tripod in their case usually, because I'd have them up on the couch, and I would hold the toy or whatever the direction I wanted them to look. So I'm, had the camera in focus over here, and then just kind of hold a toy whichever direction, or toss it whichever direction. But you've got to teach the dog ideally to lay down and to stay. So those are pretty big deals. And really, you should teach your dogs to do that anyway. It's a good idea. It makes things way easier. Okay, then we've got the black. Yeah, if your question is not highlighting in orange, I'm not ignoring you. I just don't see it. It needs to be at Lachri Fine Art. Every once in a while I'll catch one and I can answer, but I don't. Oh, I see where one is asked, but it's misspelled is why it wasn't coming up. My goal is to try and learn different forms of art. I would really like to get experienced in painting. You should try it. And I think the great thing when you're trying different forms is, the fact that you're getting used to experimenting and things. Okay, so see how I've got paint all over my hand? I immediately need to wipe that off, or it will end up on everything. What we were talking about earlier with oils, keeping clean. Any paint gets on my hand, I'm going to wipe that off. Like right now. I don't want to wait until later like I would with acrylics. Get that off, or it will end up on the brush and then everywhere else. But no, painting, trying different mediums, different forms, I think it's really good. And even if you end up like, okay, I've been working in this medium for a couple of years, not my medium, or even a couple of months, you can still take what you learn from that and apply it to other mediums. Like, it's just all helpful. It's all good to keep learning, playing with lots of different mediums, lots of different, obviously I'm all for it. You guys see how many mediums I like to paint in. This brush is actually way too big to get any sort of details. We're just kind of getting those shadows in there. And I'll come back with the detail tomorrow there. Jacob said, do you have houseplants? I have a lot of houseplants. I'm running out of space, and I was wondering if you have any. I find tending to them is very therapeutic. Yeah, my studio is covered. I've got, just next to me, we've got a succulent, mixed succulent display, baby succulents that are growing out, more baby succulents that are growing out, coconut orchid, adeniums. I really like adeniums or desert roses. I've got lots of those. Actually, I have like 70 babies growing out in another room. More succulents, orchids, and then the majority of everything over here, I've got a few more succulents, but most of those are orchids. Most of my orchids right now are Phalaenopsis. I have a few other varieties, but mostly I have Phalaenopsis, and most of them are actually in spike right now. Stacy, if you're watching, I'm laughing at you. I have a friend who, she sends me mean words when I show her my orchids are in bloom because hers won't bloom. But most of my orchids, I've got two that are in bloom, or one that's in bloom. The rest are in butter and spike. Almost all of them are. So this is actually a good year for spikes. Almost everything is blooming this year. So kind of excited about that. But I also really like Phalaenopsis. Those are one of my other favorite plants. Or not Phalaenopsis. My brain shut down. Pothos. I don't know what it is about pothos. I love those. But yeah, I've got quite a few plants. Huge plant fan. Just kind of blocking in some of these darker bits that I know are going to be super dark. This would actually probably be easier to go ahead and switch to a larger brush, but you know, the lazy in me is strong. And right now, I'll soften out the edges. Right now, I'm just kind of blocking in where the dark bits go. Let's see. What brand of oil paint do you like to use? Right now I'm using Winsor & Newton. These are the Winton Color, and I've got a link to all the supplies I'm using. The links are in the description. These are the Winton Color ones. I like those more than these are the Artist Color ones. The Winton Color I don't like as much by Winsor & Newton, and I'm also using the Weber Permalba for the black and white. But the rest of these are Winsor & Newton Winsor & Newton Artist Colors. And the reason that I use them isn't because I'm making any claim that it's the best paint ever. It's the easiest paint to get. All the art supply stores have it, and that's how I started using them. And I'm just used to using them at this point. I do want to try some other ones, but I haven't gotten that far. And there goes my air compressor. Should probably turn that off. I'm just going to kind of pull these dark bits down, just smudge that out a bit. Now, once I get into the final details, things won't be this smudgy. This is just for figuring out where my general values go. Let's see. Shelly said, I had paint on my face the other day. So much for staying clean. You know, it's funny. I talk about that, and I probably have it on mine too. Let's see. Kelly, is that the next one? Yes. Kelly said, wasn't here live last week, but thank you for your rant about retired racers. I used to own ex-racehorses, and he was my unicorn. Never mistreated and very happy. Also hate pet at HSUS. You know, I don't think anyone's gotten mad at me over that one yet. I was pretty sure I would have sooner or later the PETA freaks will find it, and or HSUS people who think that they're, you know, the savior to all the animals and yell at me. But so far, most people feel like we do that I've come across. Like, you know, most people are not a fan of the crazies. Which is, you know, seeing advertisements and stuff, you wouldn't think that was the case, but it's good to hear. I'm really happy to hear how many people are aware of what a scam and how horrible HSUS and PETA are. Okay. Let's see. Steve said, have you gotten the 72 Derwent Light Fast yet? And if so, are you planning to do a video? I have not, because I keep forgetting to contact them. I just haven't gotten around to contacting Derwent and asking for them. So I need to do that. Let's see. Hi, Lisa. I've learned so much from you, and now I'm doing commissions and selling pieces. That's awesome. Finally, you are a great teacher. Always look forward to painting with you Wednesday nights. That's so cool to hear. Good job. Okay. Oh, look who's up. Did you come to say hi? Are you gonna big stretch? I'm pretty sure that dog cannot stretch without air and noise. It sounds like ducks, huh? Yeah. I don't know if you guys can see him if he's on camera. Come here. There's his head. There he is. So you can kind of see back there what I mean by, and this lighting is all washed out. He looks solid black in this light. So when you look at black animals, they're not as dark. You don't paint them but you're not just going to paint solid black unless you're painting a silhouette. You've got the highlights and shadows. You just need to get the right lighting. Hi, sweet boy. It's hard to paint when I'm petting you. He's like, I don't care. You keep petting. Are you awake now? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Where am I? No, face away from the oils. Derp, 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 derp. Getting a little closer for comfort. Not chancing a quick tongue coming out. Actually, that doesn't even need to be yellow. That could just be straight white for now. Let's switch that. Yeah, that side's way safer. I'd rather you be near the coffee than the paint. God, that's a good boy. Do you guys do that? Like everything this dog does, I'm like, oh, you stretched, good boy. Oh, you took 2 steps forward, good 2 steps, good boy. I'm such a dork. Like everything he does, I'm telling him what a good dog he is for it. What are you doing? You can't go out right now. You need to lay down. You've got 30 minutes before we'll go out. Also, I have conversations with my dogs. That's normal, right? I don't know. He's pretty smart. He actually might understand. He's kind of weirded me out by how quickly he's figured stuff out. Extremely smart. Now, whether or not he does what I ask him to, that's a whole other thing. But he figures out things he wants. He can figure out how to do it. I still can't get over how quick he figured out ringing the bells on the back door gets me to get up and open them. Unfortunately, with that, he asks nonstop when he's bored. He wants out, he wants in. He wants out, he wants in. But I don't want to discourage him from like actually getting me to open the door if he did want out. So I do it every time. I guess I'm getting a lot more steps today since that, because he's got me walking from one end of the house to the other like every 10 minutes or so. Let's see. Whoops. Grace said, Lisa, it's so great to watch you paint tonight. It's been too long. You remain a huge inspiration to me. I truly appreciate what you give to the art community so much. Thank you so much. You painted the bulldog. It was the bulldog, wasn't it? That was like the most amazing, like, oh wow, that is amazing. If I remember correctly. Rachel said, I bought toned gray Strathmore drawing paper at Michael's on a whim. How do you think it will do if I use graphite to draw some cows? Toned gray. I mean, the problem with going with a toned color with graphite is that your brights, like you can only go as bright as the paper. So that can be a bit of a challenge. You might like it better with colored pencils so that you can use, whites and get highlights that way. Well, hi, sweet boy. Your breath is not amazing. So that might be a bit of a challenge. I would do a quick sketch and see if you like the results you're getting with the contrast there, depending on how dark. If it's not a super dark gray, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not sure. I'm not really familiar with that one, so I don't know what tone that's going to be. But yeah, that's kind of going to be what you have to watch, is how your brights can only go as bright as the paper. So whether or not you like that, that's up to you. Carla said, yeah, my Boston Terrier is pawing and whining with her ball in her mouth. They're funny. Yeah, you're funny. Are you going to lay down? What are you doing? I would be more comfortable if you'd lay down for a bit. Just a little bit longer. Man, the wind is howling out there. It's probably a good thing my wind chimes aren't up right now. That would be loud if the wind is that loud and nothing's up. Yeah, I don't really like you on this side. I can't watch you as easily. Gibson, you're making painting very hard. Kiss the snoot. But seriously, can you move on the other side is better. Back up, back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. I don't want you accidentally, and by accidentally I mean intentionally, licking the paint. Oh, here, I have an idea. Hold on, work with me. There we go. There we go, now you can't get to the paint. Okay. Let's see. Starving Artist Collective said, have not seen that light umber color before. Is that a Winsor & Newton color? I just noticed it in the eye color. I think you can add yellow or white to raw umber and get the same. You could probably, this one's more yellowy. I don't think white is going to give you as yellow as the light raw umber. I don't know if other companies have it. It's just one I picked up. It was probably on sale, knowing me. That is not the color. That's actually yellow ochre. Where did it go? But yeah, it's the light raw umber. I mean, I know this one's Winsor & Newton. I'm not sure if other companies, I would assume other companies would make it too. Joe said, whoops, where did it go? Oh, when he's not running, he seems so easygoing. Oh yeah, these guys are, they call them 45-mile-an-hour couch potatoes for a very good reason. They pretty much just sleep. No, you can't steal brushes. Get away from there. Come on, get your head out. Back up. Yeah, I see what you're trying to do. You can't have the brushes. But they're extremely calm, extremely, like, he has his moments where he has zoomies, and he's just resting his head on my leg right now, like I'm a pillow. But he'll have his zoomies where they run a lot, but for the most part, they're extremely lazy. Trying to get him, like when he's napping or laying down, trying to get him to get up, like we're lifting him up. We're like, come on. He's like, no, I'm just going to lay here. I'm good. Very, very, very lazy dogs, minus when they get those couple of times a day where they have zoomies and they run for 45 miles an hour around your backyard. But, which is probably why I think they're so suited to me. I like lazy. You can't have that either. Don't pull down the camera. If the camera falls, I'm blaming the dog, not my lack of training. Let's see. What a pretty dog. I hope you had a happy new year and are enjoying your new house. Thank you. Yes, we are. I'm enjoying it much more now that he's here. Like, he was kind of my thing that I've been waiting for. Like, I knew the Greyhound would be the what I needed to complete the home. Like, that was my whole, I think I was more excited about getting the Greyhound than I was getting the house. I've been looking forward to him because we've been talking to the Greyhound Rescue or the adoption place since, well, for a year now, when we thought we were going to lose both Italian Greyhounds got sick. Totally different things, but kind of close together. So I started working with and filling out the application, everything with the the Greyhound adoption place back in December of 2018. So I'd been not looking forward to losing my girls, but looking forward to getting a Greyhound. Like, I don't know. That's what I do. That's how I deal with the loss of a pet. I focus on the new, trying to get excited about the next one coming. So I've been super excited. I've been buying things for him for the last year. Collars, beds, crate cover. Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff. Lots of toys. So getting the house meant I have room for one more dog, so that's why we were able to get him now while the girls are still with us. And yeah, he was like the thing I was most excited about after having waited for so long. Let's see. There we go. We're just going to get a hint of some of the shadows in here. I don't need to go too crazy. And so what's happening right now, because it's wet, even though the paint on the brush is the darker brown, it's coming out lighter because it's mixing with the wet paint that's already on the canvas. Joseph said, train your dog to operate the camera. Think of the action shots painting you could get. Actually, I'm going to get him the dog harness for the GoPro, so that'll be interesting watching him zoom around from Gibson view. Steve said, I've been watching your videos so much lately that the other day when I see a Canada goose, I called it a Canada chicken. That is awesome. I'm so glad that I've infected everyone with my, well, all birds are chicken way of, or vocabulary. That's funny. Also, you were correct in calling it a Canada chicken. So here I'm just taking a stiff brush and kind of spreading that for that lighter shadow. Now when I draw things out with graphite, I do not use any kind of a fixative or anything because I don't want a fixative when I work. Some artists do and they like it and that's fine. I don't personally like it because I want the oil paint to lose the lines. Like, see how it kind of blends that graphite into the paint, so I don't have any graphite lines anywhere. Shauna said, how do you feel about the Laguna Art Fair? Would it be worth it? I've never done an art festival before. I don't know. Laguna Art Festival, is that the Sawdust Festival, the same one? The Sawdust Festival, which I believe was in Laguna, if I remember correctly, it's been a very long time. That one, if you could afford to get into it, people back in, God, that would have been 20 years ago now. Back then, I know artists would make a killing, but it cost an insane amount of money to display. Laguna Art Fair, if that's not the Sawdust Festival, I don't know, honestly. I mean, it's a good, Laguna, California, I'm assuming, a good area because the majority, if you live in Laguna, you've got to have money. So as far as buyers and such, that's going to be a good venue. But I don't know. It's not something I've ever done. I know the Sawdust Festival had a great reputation back 20 years ago. Whether or not that's the case now, I'm just not sure. What I would do is find out, see if you can find a list of artists who sold there last year, and if you can talk to them, find one that'll talk to you and get an idea that way. That would be a better way to find out if it's going to be worth it. But what I would really do, I don't recommend jumping into doing art festivals. Like, if you've never been there, don't sign up for it. Go the first year. It's better for you to go and find out, like, what is the traffic like there? Meaning, are there a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic, not cars, that doesn't really matter. But are a lot of people going, are a lot of people shopping? Talk to the artists that are there and ask them how it's going for them if they've been super successful. Now, sometimes you'll get artists that'll kind of, they want to sound more successful than they are. They think that'll get them sales, so they'll tell you they did amazing because they think you might be a buyer, and as a buyer, you might be more likely to buy if you think everyone's buying their stuff. So you kind of have to figure out or discern which is which. But if you can find an artist who's being very honest, see how they're doing and what kind of traffic. But I would do that before ever signing up. I don't recommend just jumping in and throwing a bunch of money at a art fair that you don't know how it's going to go. This whole area is pretty light. IR said, or LR, I'm not sure, said Gibson is just gorgeous. Do you have any plans for the background of this one? Yeah, thank you. And this one will be a combination, just kind of mixed colors of like a bluish green, darker blues, and like black. It'll just be a fairly dark, some reddish brown colors. Like there will actually, I say bluish green, but I think I might pull some warmer greens into that too. We'll see. But yeah, this will be dark is what it'll be, so that his highlights will really pop with that darker background. Shana said, Laguna Art Fair is different from Sawdust Festival. It's a 9-week show in summer. Yeah, I don't know. I would go and talk to the artists who do it. I really have no idea if it's worth it or not. And the thing is, even if it were the same, you know, chicken is screaming his head off in there. Even if I knew anything about it, it would have been from 20 years ago, and it could be very different now. So I would go talk to artists, or if you can find artists who did it, you know, last year, ask them how it was. But if not, go this year, attend, and see if you can talk to them then. I'm not a huge, I don't really love doing art shows and art fairs. I don't find that I make enough money to make it worth my time or effort. I do better. I've always done better selling online or through galleries. That was years ago that I sold in the gallery in California. But the art festivals and stuff that I did, it was like people went mostly to look and to buy like little crafts. Like art and crafts fairs were the worst because people want to buy like $20 or $30 max crafts. They don't want to buy hundreds or $1,000 or paintings that cost that much. I have a feeling Chicken's music stopped. Alexa, play Dave Matthews Band on Chicken's Echo.
Shuffling your songs by Dave Matthews Band.
His music probably ended, and that's probably why he is currently screaming his head off. But yeah, I don't enjoy the physical work, and part of that comes down to my health stuff. Like, it's just too much physical work for me to do shows. So right now, the only shows that I do are Aquashella, but that's because, you know, fish, and I love fish, and it's fun. Financially, not really worth it to me. I don't really make a lot of those, but I do it because they're fun. And I think that's kind of an important thing too when you decide different art shows that you might want to go to. Do you enjoy it? Because my God, are they a lot of physical work. I mean, maybe a normal person can do that kind of physical work and it's not that big of a deal. For me, though, it's too much to like move all the stuff over there. Not a fit for me. And outdoor festivals too. Oh my God, dealing with the weather. Now, Southern California, you don't really have a change in weather. But like here in Texas, there's Frisco. They have an art fair like in March every year, and they want, I don't know if it changed. Back then it was like $500 for a booth for 3 days, which is kind of high, but it's during, was it March or April, May? I don't know, kind of like springish time, meaning it's going to rain. It's almost guaranteed it's going to, for an outdoor show, I would not even, spending that kind of money, and if it rains, you're not getting your money back. You're, you still have to be there. So they're not a fit for me. So I may, point of that story is I may not be the best person to ask because it's not something I enjoy. So it's not something I really got super far into. I used to like them more, but as my health kept getting worse, it was like, this is not fun. This is not for me. What are you chewing on? Oh, you. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I got everyone's Amazon device to play. I didn't think about that. I should have told you guys to mute me. Oh, I should have muted the microphone. Next time I'll try to remember when I do that to mute my microphone when I have to turn Amazon's music on, or Chicken's music on. Sorry about that. Hope you guys like Dave Matthews Band. He just seems to like that one more. He screams less when I play that. But yeah, that's just why he's been listening to that. Okay, let's see. For the undertone, are you using dark, medium, and light undertones, or just dark and light undertones? Yeah, I've got some medium in here because I've got dark raw umber, or just like raw umber, not dark raw umber, but raw umber. This one here is light raw umber, and then I'm mixing white to lighten that more, and then black. So those are the colors I like to use for my underpaintings. Sarah said, I was just working on more of the fur around my Labrador Retriever eye while watching the live stream. Hopefully it helps you. Let's see, here's all I turned everyone's Amazon devices on. Sorry about that. Cats, okay, turned cats on too. Gosh, I turned everyone's on. You know, it's so funny. Joseph said to tell the Amazon device to play Guns N' Roses, Patience at Chicken's Echo for the whistling. I had that on the other day for him, and it didn't calm his screaming down. He wasn't as, I thought, I'm like, maybe Guns N' Roses because the higher pitch, he might like that. I did play that for him. He wasn't, I don't think that he disliked it, but it didn't calm him down. Although this is not currently calming him down. He's still in there screaming his head off. Matt comes home soon, and I think that's part of why he's screaming his head off. He knows. Weird how birds can figure out timing. Elaine said Dave Matthews meant to give you a cut of sales for getting their music to play on Echoes everywhere. I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't even cross my mind. Like, yeah, next time I do that, because I've had to turn it on a couple times for him during the streams, I will try to remember to mute myself. That's obnoxious, and I'm sorry. I mean, but it's Dave Matthews Band. At least it's good. Out from under the palette. Hey, out. Nope, too close to the paint. Go over there. Good boy. Yeah, that's better. That's good boy. But not under there all the way. He's definitely bored. He's like, can we be done now? I won't go outside and play. Oh, the sweet boy. You have fish breath. His food is sweet potato and fish. Oh yeah, there's definitely fish in there. I can smell it. I don't even know what half of my marks over here are. Yeah, as I get into here, this will switch to more of a reddish brown when I actually start coloring things in. And it's funny because on the reference photo, it fades from almost a purplish brown into a reddish brown as I move down that way. He's got all kinds of tones. That's the other thing. When you're painting black animals, remember, it's not just black and white. And don't do your highlights as straight white. If you do, you will make the animal look very aged, very old. Now, sometimes it is an older animal and you'll go ahead and go with the grays then. But don't just assume, because I'm painting, you're painting something that's black, that white is the highlight. Same thing, human hair, if you've got someone with black hair, don't jump to white is your highlight. Usually I will use like a lighter blue or like a medium blues or purples. In this case, he's got reddish brown. He's gonna have some purplish brown. He's got a little bit of blue, more magenta, actually a decent amount of magenta. But the black reflects everything that is around it. So like if the room in here were more blue, or if he was outside where the sky was shining, you're gonna get more of the blues in there. But even if it's not in the photo, I'm still going to include that. You're going to get a lot of different tones in there. If you stick to just using white as your highlight for black animals or for people with black hair, you age them, they look super old. You're making it gray, and that's usually not what you want, again, unless it is an older dog. But if it's not, and it's just the shine marks you're trying to use straight gray, what I will do, I will usually use gray for my highlight, but then I'm gonna glaze blue or purple or something on top of it so that it's not too flat. Steve said, have you tried using the Reli method? I'm going to go with no because I don't know what that is. For portraits. I've been meaning to start learning this technique and wanted to know if it was actually practical for everyday drawing. I don't know what it is, so I'm definitely no help for you there. Iris said, I'm sorry if I'm repetitive, but have Gibson and Chicken already met? Imagining them as friends is just heartwarming. Yeah, no. That would be a bloody meeting. That's not a heartwarming story. So sighthounds, meaning greyhounds, dogs that hunt by sight, greyhounds, Italian greyhounds, and it's the same with my Italian greyhounds. They're not allowed, they've been in the same room when Chicken's in his cage. He's got a heavy duty cage, so he can't get to him. But sighthounds, Gibson, without a doubt would eat Chicken. Like, they are not allowed together. So no, that's not something anyone will ever see. Not allowed. Like, he could be in the room if Chicken's in his cage. Because there's no chance that he would not eat Chicken. Like, not even a little chance he would not eat Chicken. So we're not going to try that. It's a cute idea, but no. That's the funny thing with a lot of the sighthounds, and the same thing with my Italian greyhounds. Now, Jessie has been in the same room when Chicken's out, but Jessie's blind. She's not going to catch anybody. But so that we don't worry about. But like Echo, my other girl, no, don't eat succulents. My other girl, she would also go after chickens. So no, the birds are not kept in the same area where the dogs are. My husband's computer is in the same room with the birds, so the birds hang out with him when my husband's playing his video games or watching whatever he watches on Amazon and all that stuff. So that's where they get to hang out. I know, we're almost done. I know you're bored. So see how all I'm doing is just getting my general about where do my lights and darks go. Nothing needs to be exact. And I actually end up dry brushing a lot of this at this point. I just need about where the lights and darks go. What are you doing? You just gonna rest your head on my back? All right, sweet boy. You can't come over here. I blocked you for a reason. Let's see. Starving Artist Collected said, will we see you adding the color layers on this painting next week? Possibly. I'm not going to promise. I don't know for sure. It depends on how far I get. I know I need to get the underpainting done by Friday night so that I can do the voiceover on Saturday for Patreon. But my plan is next week. I'm not sure if I'm going to start it then. I don't know where I'll be at that point. Maybe. Possibly. No, get away from the adeniums. Hey. He's like, I was just looking out the window. I wasn't going to eat them. I still don't trust you. Oh, so now not only do I have conversations with my dogs, I answer for my dogs. This is what happens when you work from home and spend all day with dogs. You invent your own conversations. Huh. Okay, let's see. We've got a bit of a shadow coming along this edge. Yeah, that's you. Hi. I'm really glad that I do not have, and I thought about putting bells on other doors in the house so he could tell me where he wanted to open. I can't even imagine. He'd be ringing the bells most of this live stream. He's really good at that trick. Let's see. Tammy said, I'm really starting to fall in love with him. He is such a sweetheart. I also want to thank you for these live streams. They're so relaxing and fun. I learned so much. Oh, thanks. And yes, he is seriously the biggest, best dog, like easiest dog. Part might be that every other dog I've ever had, actually I'm pretty much done for tonight, but part might be that every other dog, I've always started with puppies. And so starting with a 2-year-old, or he's not 2, he's like a year and a half, is a lot easier for sure. But they're just so, like, he's so gentle. He'll run a little in the house, not much. Mostly he just sleeps. He's very careful around. He's done really good with the girls. I was worried about him smushing in them. He's done very, very well. A couple times he's gotten wound up, so I just have to pay attention to when he's excited so that he doesn't squish them. But for the most part, like when he's walking, he's pretty good about not smashing them, or like walking around them. No one's been smashed yet, but if he gets excited, I have to separate them because I don't want to chance him trying. He's tried to play with Echo a couple of times, and Echo's like, nope, you're too big. That's scary. But no, they're very, very gentle, like really gentle, except if a bird. There's no gentle if he comes across a bird, or a bunny or a squirrel. They're known for murdering, like you have bloodbaths in your backyard if a squirrel gets out there. You're too close to the, okay, you know what? I'm just going to put this on here because this is as far as we're going to get tonight. But gentle murderers is what they are. Huh. Is that true? He's like, it's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. But I mean, they're bred to hunt bunnies, so small animals are, they trigger that instinct to chase and destroy. Huh. But other than that, like in the house, biggest sweet, everyone who's met him, he goes up, like brand new people, he loves everybody. He's rests their head, like what you've seen him do over here, where he just comes and puts his head on your leg or leans against you. Like, and they all do, they're just such sweethearts. It's really like, yeah, super happy that we decided to go with a Greyhound. I was torn between a Greyhound and an Iberian Hound for our next dog. But went with the Greyhound because, you know, the rescues and it's easier to to find a Greyhound versus an Iberian Hound. So yeah, I am not unhappy with this choice at all. He's been just wonderful to live with. Such a good boy. So yes, very good dog. Ellen said, I was going to ask if your dog's ever touched all the plants. My lab, an even 8-month-old, wants to eat all the plants outside. All my indoor plants are high up. He's been okay right now. He's walking around the studio just trying to look out the window because he really wants to go outside. So he does that when he's bored. Like I don't know, he's over there, you probably can't see. He kind of sniffs them. He did the first day he visited us when the rescue police brought him over. He did pull one of the adeniums. He's like, I'm just going to remove this slowly and gently from the pot. We took it from him. He wasn't like super aggressive about taking it or like biting it or anything. But that's the only thing he's really done. He mostly has just sniffed them. I just tell him to leave him alone and he walks off. He's like, fine, whatever. Don't really care. He's not been destructive at all. Except he was stealing my, by the way, if you're here just for painting, I'm done painting for the night. So now I'm rambling about this cute snoot. But he was stealing like wash rags. If I left the wash rag on the side of the bathtub, those would all end up in his bed. He stole my placemat. He was stealing a lot of stuff. And so I learned to leave the laundry room closed, but he stole some hair scrunchies and he actually swallowed one. I found that in the backyard. So, yeah, I have to be real careful to leave that stuff up because I don't want him it can cause a blockage and different problems internally. Like, I don't really care about the scrunchie, but I don't want him, not if he's going to be swallowing stuff. Luckily, it came back up versus the other way where it could have blocked him. So we were lucky there, but now I'm like, okay, I've got to watch him on hi, this is gross, sorry. I've got to watch him on some little stuff like that. I don't know why he would swallow that, but other than that, he's not been destructive. Even with that, he didn't rip it up. He was just carrying it around and don't knock those over. He's over between the adeniums looking out now. So usually sighthounds aren't terribly destructive. You will have people occasionally get them and they'll shred okay, I take that back. They do murder toys a lot. He's not yet, whether or not he will. Once he decides he likes the squeaky in the toys, he might, but so far he's not been destructive. That part may change, but as far as like chewing up shoes, usually, or chewing up furniture, you will occasionally have one that will, but it's not like every Greyhound does type thing, whereas like labs have a tendency to be a bit more destructive, especially when they're puppies. So I guess it depends a lot on the dog themselves though. Let's see. Angela said, does chicken get vocal when your husband's vehicle pulls in? My son Connier lets us know if any car pulls in. He gets vocal about an hour before his car pulls in. Like, he knows it's coming and he is super excited. So that's, yeah, I always know it's about an hour or two. Ellen said, pothos are poisonous. No, I think those ones are ones that aren't. If I'm calling them the right thing. I mean, I don't feed them to the dogs anyway, but I thought pothos, wasn't that one of the ones that was non-toxic? Maybe I've got it backwards, mixed up with something else. I'd have to look it up. I don't let them eat it, so it doesn't really... So I don't leave my dogs out unattended at all, so that's not really a problem. If I'm not here, like when we go somewhere, they're crated, and they sleep in their crate. Otherwise, they're in the room I am, so it's not really... Now the adeniums, those are poisonous. If those ones are small enough at most that would cause an upset stomach. When they get bigger, if he ate enough, that could be a problem. But he's not unattended with them, so it's not really a problem. Let's see. Tammy Hall said, Gibson is saying, come on, I'm ready to go outside and run. Yeah, pretty much. He's going to have massive zoomies after this. Thanks, Xerxes. Yeah, and everybody, thank our moderators, Joseph and Nick. I could not do this without them. They help so much. They've got channels here on YouTube. You can check them out. The links are in the video description. Just go subscribe to them and watch their videos. Serbian Artist Collective said, my friend's big, beautiful, gentle greyhound tried to seriously eat my cat. Yeah, see, that's the other thing. They're gentle murderers. A lot of them, like, he's not cat tolerant. He failed his cat test, which makes him perfect for me. I don't have cats, so that's not a concern. But they have a hard time sometimes placing them because they don't always live in harmony with cats. Like, worse than the average dog would be with cats. It's small, it moves, it's in their nature to chase, and some will do okay and some never will. He's one of the, he was a failure on his cat test, which again, perfect for me because I don't have cats, so we're a good fit for each other. Oops, scroll too far. Yeah, she said, no, we meet up at the park instead. Easier on you, everyone's nerve. Well, her greyhound should have come, if she went through a rescue, he should have come with a muzzle. We call it a snoot mask. But that will, that's what I do if he's going to meet, like if he meets a new dog. We went on a walk with my neighbor's dogs, and they were all on a leash, so it was fine. But when we went to see if they got along off, he was definitely a bit snippy. So I'm like, yeah, we'll do the muzzle next time we let you guys. And we'll also try one at a time. We're going. Give me a minute. We're almost done. Let me get caught up on some questions. Casey Wood said, was Gibson expensive? Everything I bought for him was extremely. I bought a freezer, I bought a meat grinder, everything I bought for him was very expensive. He himself, his adoption fee was $350, which is nothing compared to what the actual cost of owning a dog is. But like I bought, because I feed raw, but he's a lot bigger than my girls, so his food will not fit in my freezer like their food does. So I had to buy a lot of things to make that happen. That was costly. I'm going to be broke for the next 2 months now after that purchase. The care, his pet insurance is like $55 a month. When you add up, and the reason that I bring this up is a lot of people will do the whole, well, a dog's expensive, I'm just, I'll get a free dog or whatever, which is fine. But always remember when you get a dog, and this is why one of many reasons dogs end up in humane societies, people don't anticipate how much it actually costs to take care of the dog. So, you've got vet bills. You've got, like, he has to be kept on heartworm medication. That's not super cheap. He has to have, your vaccines, your dental work. Normally every few years, they're going to need it, depending on their teeth. Some of them need it every year, but he'll need dental work. So you've got anesthetic, you've got pre-anesthetic blood work, you have the actual dental. So it is very expensive so when you ask if he's expensive, the $350, not terrible. The rest of everything else is what you just need to plan for. Now, of course, you don't have to do the frozen food and the raw like I do, so that saves some, but just vet care and stuff in general, it's just things that you need to, think about when you get a dog. Definitely worth it, but also not like... It was always frustrating when I worked at the animal hospital how many people didn't take care of their dog because they didn't anticipate the cost of the care of their dog. And then the dog ends up in the Humane Society. And it's like, half the time those people bought their dog from a puppy mill. The other is just not anticipating general care of an animal. And so, things people need to think about. But no, he himself, the adoption fee was not expensive. Let's see. Oops, that scrolled too far. Just gonna get caught up on the questions before we finish tonight. Alan said he's adorable. All the best with him, and thanks for waiting for part 2. My lab is black. Thanks, and waiting for part 2. My lab is black. This will help greatly. Yeah, you're gonna paint the lab pretty much the same. You'll just make a few more hair strokes as far as their fur is a little bit more dense or a little bit thicker. So this will be good for you. If you've got a black lab, this lesson is gonna be a good one. Oh, I can actually turn off the recording now on that. Let's see. Iris said, so excited to see this piece. Antelope drawing is beautiful. Really a fan of African wildlife. Thank you. Me too. I really do like African wildlife. I like all wildlife. What am I saying? Or what does Nick call him? The jungle moose? Let's see. Yeah, and toys. Oh my gosh, the amount of money I have spent on toys on this boy, because I've been buying them all year long. His bed, his crate. No, I went a bit overboard on some stuff. Like, you don't have to have the crate cover that I got. You can make your own. It's a lot cheaper if you want to do the crate cover. You can definitely do things less than what I did. I don't have kids, so I spoil my animals. That's where all my money goes to. Art supplies and dog, or all my animals, maintenance and toys and all the things. But collars is a big one. So sighthounds wear martingale collars. You can look it up online. But martingales, and it's kind of like it tightens if they pull on, because his neck is thicker than his head, so he's going to slide out of a standard size collar. So the martingale, it tightens when they pull on it, so he can't slip out. But they have fancy ones. Like, he has one with skulls and roses that is so cute. Like, it's cute skulls. Yes, it's a thing. And then another one that's House Slytherin from Harry Potter. Those are his two of his fancier martingales. But I'm a collar addict, and so I buy lots of collars. His jacket for when it's too cold for walks. Yeah, we've got, there were a lot of things. And I'm poor now because I spent all my money on Gibson stuff. Shelly said, thanks Lisa, Joseph, and Nick for this live chat. Always learn so much. Love seeing Gibson and looking forward to the finished piece. Good night, everyone. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much. Yes, Birdsong's vet care costs a fortune, and that's something you have got to plan for. That's why I'm doing for him. I don't have health insurance on when they were younger, I did. The Italian Greyhounds, but him, he definitely did, because it can be anything. He could be running around the backyard and slip and hurt his leg, and it's like, you've definitely got a plan for all that when you've got pets. So anyway, otherwise, that's how, a huge reason so many of them end up back in rescues or in shelters when people can't afford the general care, or they didn't bother to train it. Like when I was going back before, when I'm like, train your dogs. If you don't train them, and if you don't know how, there are videos that will show you how, but teach them the basics: to sit, to stay, to lay down, to come when called. We're working on that. Sighthounds have selective hearing. But if you can teach them the basics, they're going to be way easier to live with. And you're going to be more likely, why are you biting your butt? They'll be more likely to not end up in a shelter when things didn't work out well. Anyway, okay, enough ranting. Let's see. Thanks for watching, everybody. Oh, Pamela said, I bought an oval 16 by 20 inch Fredericks for an art show. Now I don't know what to paint because I heard the painting has to go around the back into the painting. Help. I have no idea on that, but that'll be fun for you to figure out what to paint on that. Okay, so we are done. That is it for tonight, and thank you guys so much. Be here next week. I don't know, it'll probably be something on this. I don't know how far I'll be by then, but that is it, and thanks again for joining. Bye, guys. Gibson, you want to say goodbye? Put your snoot up. Put your snoot up. Say bye. Oh, it's a sweet. I don't know if you can see him on camera. There's the tip of his snoot. Okay, bye, guys.